and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on Paramount Plus that knows a thing or two about enemas. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge All-Stars Season 3, Episode 1 and 2. We got a double header to kick off this All-Star season, and we got a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it, starting with in Episode 1, everybody coming to the Challenge House, and we start off with Tina and Veronica reunited, and they are the first to show up at the Challenge House and get the layout of the land, and from there, everybody is coming in 2x2, 3x3. We get a montage of everybody getting out of their cars, heading up to the Challenge House, which kind of reminds me a little bit of the Challenge Inferno opening. But we have people grouped together. We had Kendall, Kellyanne, and Tyler grouped up together. Then we had the Team Real World Austin grouped up together with Wes, Melinda, and Nehemiah. And then we have the Challenge All-Star winner car, where we had Yes showing up with John A. and MJ. There's not much to do on night one, where on night one, everybody is just drinking, having a good time, getting to know everybody, getting reacquainted with one another, and possibly meeting people for the first time before this game kicks off. We wake up the next morning where there is a tonal shift as we are met with Wes, who is on the treadmill, and we get a confessional from him where he is just saying that he is done with the All-Stars Kumbaya. Everybody's just excited to have that nostalgia punch and just excited to be hanging out with each other, and let's play the game admirably. He is here to shake up the house, shake up the game, and bring the cutthroat to the Challenge All-Stars. And you know what? I'm here for it as everyone gets dressed and heads down to meet up with TJ to get some of the rules for this season of the Challenge All-Stars, as well as the first daily challenge of the season. And let's go over some of the rules and the format for this season. And TJ lets us know that this is going to be a solo season. There will be 2 winners. 1 man and 1 woman will split $500,000. And also there is a group that's going to be in power every single episode called the Authority. And it's going to be the top 3 men and the top 3 women of that episode's daily challenge, where they will have safety and power to vote in 1 man and 1 woman to send into the elimination against the last place finisher, man and woman of that episode. As well as the top finishing man and woman competitor in that daily challenge will then get a sabotage that they will give to anybody that they want come next daily challenge. So winning is essential in this game. I mean, when is winning not essential to the challenge? But you know what? I'm excited about these rules, and I'll be getting more into my reaction and my review of the format of the season in tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk. But let's get into this week's daily challenge called Tunnel Vision. Now, this is going to be run in a men's heat and a women's heat, and what players are going to have to do is DJ is going to blow a horn. They're going to run to this wall that has holes in it. Players are going to have to peer through the hole to find a picture that has an intricate pattern on it. You have to memorize that pattern, run back to your board, recreate that pattern. The top 6 players of this daily challenge will win safety and power, and everybody else will be up for the vote, and you don't want to be last because you go straight into the elimination. The men are up first, and I thought that this was a decent daily challenge. It wasn't anything too intricate, it wasn't that physical, and it really wasn't that mental. And when I say mental, it wasn't like a tanagram puzzle or anything that had to do with math. It's just peering through a hole and then having to wait your turn or push somebody or having to find a weird spot in the wall to look through. And yes, you had to use your memory, but again, it wasn't anything mental like the puzzle that we got in episode 2 or anything like that. But I thought it was relatively tame and a good introductory if they're brand new to the All-Star realm. That is, unless you're Cyrus, who we found out he was colorblind in season 1 of All-Stars, so he was at a huge disadvantage. And ultimately, he comes in last place, and you think, well, this was tough for the men, but especially it was tough for Cyrus, who was colorblind. And so he comes in last place, which feels like a setup. I mean, it just sucks. If you're colorblind, I mean, that's an essential part to getting this puzzle correct. So let's go through where the men finish off. The top place finisher for the men is Wes, then Yes, and MJ. They won into the Authority, with Wes getting the sabotage to give to anybody he wanted to in episode 2. Then you have Darrell finishing in 4th place, Nehemiah in 5th place, Jordan in 6th, Derek in 7th, Latyrian in 8th, Brad in 9th, Mark in 10th, Tyler in 11th, and like I mentioned, Cyrus in last place. Then the women are up, and Sylvia is incredible. She is able to check out this puzzle, do it in such quick time. I mean, Jordan had a confessional saying that she didn't half the time Wes did it. So Sylvia locks in first place easily. Kellyanne gets second place, and then Veronica locks in third place. They make up the rest of the authority, and then you have Melinda in fourth. Fifth is Kayla, Jemmy in sixth. Seventh is John A, which surprised me. John A finishing in the back half of the women's heat was surprising to me. And then you had Ronnie in 8th, 9th was Naya, Kendall in 10th, and then it came down to Tina or Cynthia, and Tina was able to just sneak by and beat out Cynthia. So we have Wes and Sylvia locking in first place and the sabotage for next episode, and joining them in the authority is, yes, MJ, Kellyanne, and Veronica, and then going straight into the elimination round for this episode was Cyrus and Cynthia. Now back at the house, we get a jungle theme party with everybody wearing some animal prints. Some people even decked out their faces. Other players maybe just wore some floral. And while at the party, we have Cynthia talking to Sylvia, saying that she does not care who she goes up against. She feels bad for having to single out anybody, and make it a point that Sylvia has to choose who she goes up against. And Sylvia is scared this whole time. I mean, let's be real. Sylvia is scared this whole episode. It's been a while. Season 32 was the final time she was on a challenge season, and now she's in the midst of all these OGs and these legends, and she's like, in the beginning of the daily challenge, she was like, I'm just like freaking out. I feel like I'm about to throw up. Then she comes to win that daily challenge, and now she's sitting here going like, I just want somebody to tell me what to do. Well, don't worry about that, Sylvia, because Wes will gladly tell you what to do if you just ask him. And then we see a moment where Tyler is talking to Veronica, and Tyler is like, okay, well, I was pretty quiet last season, but now I'm gonna play very much into the social game, and my game plan is just be the fun, good vibes player. And who would want to throw in the fun person into the elimination and take the fun out of the house? Well, Tyler, you could be a good time and a good person and a good player, but if you do not have those strong connections, you will go in more times than not. And once I saw Tyler talking to Veronica, I just had a feeling that Tyler was going to be thrown into the elimination. But let's move on to the next day, where Jordan is at the pool and he's talking like he's nervous about being thrown into the elimination. Wes won the daily challenge. They don't have the best relationship with one another, and he thinks that Wes could take a shot early, and Mark even thought the same thing. Mark has his eye on Jordan. He doesn't know Jordan all that well. He just knows that he's a good player, and Mark at one point was like, if I was in the authority, I would bring up Jordan's name. But we go to the authority meeting, and Jordan's name is brought up. Yes kind of shuts that down and wants to do whoever came second to last goes into the elimination against the last place people. Everybody agrees that that is the safe, but probably the most fair thing to do, as this is the first vote for the first elimination of the season, and nobody wants to throw their cards out. I mean, Tina's butt is on the line. Veronica and Tina are best friends coming into the house, yet Veronica is not going to stick out her neck for Tina. It's way too early, and I think Veronica really does feel that Tina can go into the elimination against Cynthia and win. It's done. It is settled. It's going to be Tyler versus Cyrus and Tina versus Cynthia. And so Veronica has to go to Tina, lets her know like, hey, you are going into the elimination. And Tina is pissed. She's like, I don't know if I can trust Veronica moving forward in the game. And if there's a point where I have to send in Veronica, I'll gladly do it. So it sounds like this is going to get very, very interesting. We move on to the elimination, where TJ calls down the players of Cyrus and Tyler, Tina and Cynthia to play in this week's elimination called Brawl, where players are going to have to transport 3 sandbags one by one through this metal cage tunnel. And once you transport all 3 of your sandbags to the other side, you're going to clip those sandbags and drag them to the bell. Be the first to hit the bell, because that means you win the elimination, stay in the game, and you get a special star from TJ, like you're in preschool and you cleaned up after playtime. But more on that a little bit later. This is Cynthia's first elimination game, and we're coming into this elimination with Tina, who kind of gave the win to Melinda last season and waved the white flag, didn't want to play in the elimination against a friend, and now she's coming in wanting to right that wrong. She wants redemption, and by George, she gets it. She takes Cynthia to the cleaners. She is able to win this pretty handily. Cynthia really held her own. I really wish Cynthia was able to win, stay in this game, but Tina was able to win, and she gets an extra star. Now it's the men's turn, and it's Tyler versus Cyrus. And let me tell you right now, Cyrus does something here that I think is a really strong strategy. In the middle of this cage and metal tunnel, there is dirt piled up. And when Cyrus gets to the dirt, he kind of like moves a little bit of the dirt at a time, and he's kind of conserving his energy while Tyler is up there just like really using a ton of energy to get this dirt out of the way. You and your opponent are working together at this point in time to get the dirt out of the way. So whether you exhaust all of your energy or none of your energy, you're both gonna get through this tunnel at a certain point. Like, you're both working towards the same goal. I mean, if they were in separate tunnels where they had to dig out themselves, then you have to use all of your energy to dig yourself out. But if you're in the same tunnel, it doesn't matter who's digging the most or who's digging the least. You're both gonna get through this tunnel at roughly the same time if you're both at that point trying to get the dirt away from yourself. So Cyrus, I think, conserves his energy while Tyler is just using a ton of energy to get this dirt out of his way as quick as possible. And let's be real, Cyrus came in much better shape than we saw him in All-Stars 1. He looks incredible. He's looking good. I think he said that he's still over 200 pounds, but he's like a healthy 200 pounds, and he is able to win this elimination. I really enjoyed Tyler here at the end of this episode, where even though Cyrus hit the bell, was declared the winner, Tyler kept going. He got his third bag, he transported it, he still drug all 3 bags over to the bell, he knocked on it. Yes, he lost, but he was able to complete it. So the first players eliminated from this All-Stars season is Cynthia and Tyler, 2 champions of the game and 2 players that will certainly be missed. Before episode 1 is over, that's when TJ says, hey, just to let you know, if you're down in elimination and you send somebody home, you will get an extra star on your shirt, and that will lead to some sort of an advantage in the game. When will we know about this advantage? We don't know. It's not in episode 2, but speaking of episode 2, let's start off where episode 2 starts off, and that is with a giant pool party. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's just wanting to relax after the first elimination of the season, and this is where we get some theorizing from Wes and Sylvia about the sabotage. Wes has it in his mind who he wants to sabotage. Sylvia's like, I don't know who to sabotage. Maybe it could be Kellyanne. And this is when Wes gives some advice to Kayla, Sylvia. Jemmy was also sitting there, and he was like, look, Kellyanne and Kendall are kind of like just 2 on their own. Yes, they're kind of with me. Yes, they're kind of with Darrell, but they're kind of just like floating around by themselves. Maybe if you want to strike up a deal, maybe you can grab those 2 and have them as numbers for your side if you want to make a deal like that. But Sylvia's like, I don't know about that. Maybe I'll think about it. While Sylvia is pondering who she should sabotage at the next daily challenge, we move over to a conversation with Mark, who is talking to his mother, where we learn that Mark's mother is fighting stage 4 cancer, which has metastasized to her bones. She went to the doctors. She had a good prognosis. She was telling Mark, and let me tell you right now, I got teary-eyed from recent experiences that I have dealt with, losing a family member from cancer. I started to well up every time I watched this episode, and let's just say that I'm going to be pulling for Mark to make it far into this season. But we learn why Mark is here, who he is playing for, what is his motivation to do well on this season. And what I also love about this is that we're seeing a different side of Mark. Yes, he wants to have a fun time. Yes, he's cracking jokes, but he is really locking into wanting to do well on this season and maybe play a different game than what we saw in All-Stars 1 and his previous seasons on the show. I think he's coming in fully wanting to win, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get there. We move on to a small scene with Tina and Melinda is talking about how her ankle is hurt. It is sore, it is stiff. We learn that she rolled her ankle like 4 times in last season's finals, and this was a quick turnaround. I mean, at the end of All-Stars 2, we got the coming soon of All-Stars 3 with TJ in the house. I mean, how long were they home before they got back on a plane to jump onto All-Stars 3 if you were on All-Stars 2? So seeing Mark having a conversation with his mother and then also seeing Melinda talk about her ankle to Tina, I was just sitting there going like, this is not going to be good for either Mark or Melinda. Everybody dons their challenge gear, heads down to meet up with TJ for this episode's daily challenge called Out of Reach, where everybody is going to be on a swing high up in the air, and they're going to have to swing high enough to kick a ball out of a box. And that ball has a key, and players are going to have to jump into the water, grab their ball and key, get to the dock, where using their key, they're going to open up a box with a star puzzle, a 3D star puzzle, and they're going to have to put the star puzzle together. The top 3 men and top 3 women to get their puzzle done the quickest will be in the authority. Now, there is some business to be had where Wes and Sylvia have a sabotage to hand out. Sylvia gives her sabotage to Kellyanne, stating that in the previous episode, she got 2nd place. So she wants to hinder Kellyanne from possibly winning again. And then we have Wes, who gives his sabotage to Jordan. No surprise there. He makes a big deal saying like, oh, well, it's National Best Friends Day and I'm going to give it to Jordan. And Jordan is the star of All-Stars 3. He is the hero of All-Stars 3. And Jordan takes this and he's like, you know what? Wes is setting me up. He wants to sabotage me, but he's setting me up for a big victory in this daily challenge. There's 4 heats of this Out of Reach challenge. And so in Heat 1, we have Derek, Nehemiah, LT, Mark, Wes, and Jordan. Everybody in this heat is able to kick their ball and key out of their box except for LT and Wes, who are dropped automatically. They get a 20-minute time penalty for this. Now, speaking of time penalties, Jordan is able to kick his ball and key out of the box. He is able to get to his box. He has to wait a minute before he can open up his puzzle box. And that was the sabotage that was given to Jordan and Kellyanne. They have to wait a minute. Once they get their key and ball, they have to wait a minute to open up their puzzle box and then construct their puzzle. And Jordan is able to finish up first in this Heat 1, despite Derek getting his ball first. Despite having a 1-minute sabotage, he is able to destroy Heat 1. Then it's Nehemiah, then it's Mark coming in 3rd, and Wes is able to beat out Laterian. Wes looked pathetic up on that swing. I mean, I was shocked that Wes wasn't able to swing better to get farther in this challenge, but he was said by certain players in this episode that he got 2nd to last. So that's not good. Getting from 1st in the first daily challenge to 2nd to last, I mean, luckily, he was able to get that puzzle done before Laterian. Now let's go to Heat 2, where we have Kellyanne, Jemmy, Naya, Melinda, John A, and Sylvia, where majority of this heat had to be dropped automatically and got a 20-minute time penalty. John A crushes this swinging and this puzzle. She kicks out her ball first. Kellyanne is able to kick out her ball not too long after that, and she even gets to her puzzle box first. However, she has to wait a minute, and then she is freaking out this whole time. Even the people that had to be dropped automatically and couldn't even finish up the swinging finished their puzzles before Kellyanne was. But the first one to finish in Heat number 2 was John A, then Sylvia and Naya. Sylvia is really impressing me in these puzzles. She's absolutely crushing it. Then we go to Heat 3, which is Yes, Brad, Cyrus, MJ, and Darrell. MJ is the first to kick his ball out of his box, but Yes is the first to completely finish up this puzzle and lock in 1st place. I mean, Yes is crushing it, getting 2nd place in the first puzzle in the first episode, then getting 1st in this puzzle. I mean, incredible. Brad impresses me getting 2nd place. Even though MJ kicked out his ball first, he got 3rd place. And Darrell, we learn about his lore of being afraid of heights, about being on a roller coaster. His mom forced him to be on a roller coaster when he was a young kid, and they had to stop him because he was screaming so loudly. And then he said that his hands were getting cut up, and if he felt like he was going to go into elimination and have to use his hands or anything, that he would rather conserve his energy, have them drop him, and then we'll just see where the times lie. So Darrell is dropped automatically. He's the only one out of that heat to be dropped automatically, but he gets that puzzle done rather quickly. We saw his puzzle skills in Double Agents, and he is just a really strong puzzle master. And then the final heat, Heat 4, we have Veronica, Kayla, Tina, Kendall, and Ronnie. And let me tell you right now, If you thought the trampoline challenge with Tina last season was funny, this was hilarious. I mean, Tina, in the first like 2 pumps of this swinging, she is like hanging and dangling from the swing upside down to the point where she has to drop herself and she is instantly DQ'd. She has a one-way ticket heading to the second elimination of the season, her second elimination of the game. And I mean, it was, like TJ said, I have never seen somebody crash and burn so quickly. I mean, it was rather pathetic, but rather funny. And seeing Kendall's face when Tina was hanging upside down was so funny to see in slow motion. But Tina gets DQ'd. She is going straight into the elimination, which all the women are like, thank you, Tina, for stinking so much. Kayla and Kendall are able to kick their balls out of their box. Veronica and Ronnie cannot swing, and so they are dropped automatically. Kendall is the first to finish out of this heat, and she gets first place for the women on this daily challenge. She is incredible. Kayla gets second in this heat, and Ronnie gets third place. So at the end of this daily challenge, the authority is made up of the first place finishers of Yes and Kendall. Then you have Jordan, John A, Brad, and Kayla making up the authority, getting safety, and then having the power to vote in anybody they want to send in against the last place finishers of this episode with Tina and Laterian. So we go back to the house, and Wes is kissing Jordan's hand. They make a big production out of it, and this is why we love to see old school players, especially Wes on the season, kissing the hand, making a big gesture, having fun with it, even though it backfired in his face. Then we move over to the bar scene where we have Tina, who is very vulnerable. She is going into an elimination. She's talking to John A, who is in the authority, and Tina kind of threatens John A at this point. Tina, who has no power at all in this episode, in this season, really, and she is telling John A that she doesn't care who she goes up against as long as it's not Veronica or Melinda, and if either one of those players is sent into the elimination against Tina, she will take it as a personal attack, and she does not want to mess with Tina and have Tina as an enemy in this game. And John A is like, who is Tina to threaten me at any level? She has no power whatsoever, and she's kind of pissing me off. We move over to Laterian. Laterian has a different approach. I mean, he has the same wishes. He doesn't want to go into an elimination against any of his friends, which is Nehemiah, Laterian, or Darrell. Anybody else he's cool with. So he has the same philosophy. He just says it in a different way, in a way better way. Now we move over to the authority ceremony where the players of Kayla, Kendall, Yes, John A, Jordan, and Brad have to discuss on who they want to vote in to the elimination. Now, Kayla decides to come up with a bright idea and says, hey, let's just go around and say who we want to save. Who would we feel uncomfortable saying and sending into the elimination? Yes, it's like, wow, that seems very revealing. But both Brad and Kayla are like, let's do it. And Kayla even puts out there that she feels like she wants to save Sylvia. She doesn't want to say Sylvia's name. She's not giving up too much because everybody knows that Kayla and Sylvia are a package deal. So Kayla's getting so much information from everybody else when she's barely giving up anything that people don't already know. It's a very smart move. We hear from Kendall that she doesn't want to say Kellyanne's name, and I'm surprised that she only says that she doesn't want to say Kellyanne's name. Yes, throws out Jemmy and Derek as being safe. John A throws out MJ. Jordan says Naya, and Brad puts out Wes. Before the voting happens, Kayla throws out there that, hey, let's just throw it out there. There's a lot of numbers on the real world Austin. And with those 3 in the game, they're also going to look out for each other. I'm just throwing that out there. Use that information with what you will, but I'm just throwing it out there that there's 3 of them, and whoever tries to work with them will be the 4th automatically. And that's when Yes is like, you know what? You bring up a good idea of Wes. I don't like people that love to sabotage, that loves to play cutthroat, and I would like to throw Wes into the elimination. But Brad's like, I don't know about that. And so then Mark's name gets thrown out there. Brad is trying to veto, but Jordan is feeling uncomfortable about taking Mark off the table, and they decide that they're going to just tell everybody who they voted for instead of them showing us, which they show us afterwards. They do like a flashback to the actual vote. It comes out that Melinda was voted 6-0 to go up against Tina, and then Mark was voted in 5-1. Brad did not vote for Mark, which could be telling, but majority of everybody votes in Mark, which shocks everybody. First of all, they have to tell Tina that Melinda was thrown in or voted into the elimination, which Tina is pissed. But who cares, because she has no power here. And then everybody goes over and says, hey, well, Mark was also voted in, and everybody is flabbergasted, especially Jemmy, especially Veronica, who mouths are agape. They're like, Mark, the Godfather, the OG? I was shocked myself, but maybe Mark's connections aren't as strong as, say, everybody thought they was. Maybe this is like a Tyler situation. Mark is cool with everybody, so he's not really as strong a ties with a ton of people, and people just see him as a good time, but are willing to throw him under the bus. We move on to the elimination, where TJ calls down Melinda, Tina, Latyrian, and Mark, and this is where we see Melinda hobbling. She has to have help from Nehemiah to walk down the stairs. She gets in front of TJ, and TJ's like, you look like you can't even walk. And that's when Melinda says, TJ, you made your final really, really hard last season. I rolled my ankle a ton, and because of this, I don't think I'm going to be able to go up against Tina. And this time, I am going to DQ myself, and I'm going to take myself out of the game, giving Tina the win. So Melinda, sadly, is going to be heading out. She is done for the season. An early exit after a surprising All-Stars 2 season. I was hoping that she was going to make it farther into the season, but she has to worry about her health. She was really hurting. I'm hoping that she is healed properly and she is able to come back maybe for a future All-Star season and come back stronger and better than ever, but sad to see her being taken out of the game so early. So Tina is going to be awarded a 3rd star. Now, I will say, I did forget about this, but TJ did mention that we still need an elimination. So now you get to turn around and choose anybody you want to go up against in this elimination. And Tina's like doing an evil laugh. And at first I was like shocked. I was like, what? What is happening? And then TJ's like, just kidding. You're not going to pick anybody. That's not fair, but I will give you an extra star. So despite there not being an elimination, despite there technically being a DQ and Tina didn't necessarily win, she does get a 3rd star. So Tina is in a power position with these stars. Whenever we figure out what they do, Tina's going to have the most stars so far. And so now we have an elimination between Latyrian and Mark, 2 powerhouses, 2 brick houses, and they're going to be playing in the elimination called Lights Out. Both players will be tethered to a bar where they're going to have to fight to get to this box with a button to turn a light off. The player to turn the light off first will win this elimination, stay in this game, and this was a tough battle. Mark had the right strategy from the very beginning by getting low. He was just moving an inch and then hunkering down. And it wasn't until about the 30-minute mark when Mark started to move a little bit, he felt a lot of give, and he just kept on going. Like, he was just fighting to get all the way up there. Latyrian was hurting, and this is what I was worried about with Latyrian coming into this season. He is incredible at pole wrestle, but every single elimination that isn't pole wrestle, Latyrian has faltered on, and it came down to it where Latyrian was dry heaving. He was very much out of breath. Mark, too, was drenched in sweat as they were going for a long time in this elimination, and that's when Latyrian found himself all the way back. He was so far away from this box, he wasn't able to gain any ground. Mark was like a sea turtle, just hunkered down, and that's when everybody up at the top was trying to give Latyrian some help, being like, hey, run the opposite way. You're so far away from this light and button that you might as well go the opposite way, try to get Mark off balance, and then try to get the other way. And so Latyrian tries to run. He's not being able to get his footing in the sand. There's a point where I thought Mark was actually going to start moving in the opposite direction, but Mark was able to put his feet in the ground, reach that giant frame as far as he could, and he was able to turn that light off, getting the win, his 2nd elimination win in his challenge career, sending Latyrian home. Sad to see Latyrian and Melinda, 2 Alliance members from last season in Save the Palace Alliance, both leaving early on in the season, but Tina and Mark are staying in this game, getting extra stars, and now Mark is like, who wants to take a shot at me now? I'm so excited. This All-Stars season started off with a blast. I'm excited about the cast. I'm excited about what could happen in the next coming episodes, but that is it for this week's review and recap of Challenge All-Stars. What did you think about this episode? Let me know that in the comment section below. What did you think about the double header? Were you expecting a double header? What did you think about the first daily challenge, the eliminations, and what do you think about the format? Let me know anything and everything you felt about this All-Star season so far down in the comment section below, because I'll be taking a good amount of the comments from this video and answering comments and replying to them on tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk. So let me know anything and everything you felt about this All-Star season so far down in the comment section below. Also, I want to throw it out there that I'll be going live with Chantel and Chris on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about these Challenge All-Stars episodes and go through our fantasy cast. So please check us out on Friday nights on the Nullified Take channel and Reality Realness channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's, as well as a shot-for-shot trailer breakdown to what's to come this season that was put at the end of episode 1, and that will be coming out this Friday, May 13th. Oh, there's so much content. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have a challenge season, especially All-Stars back on the TV. I'm so excited. But thank you so much for watching. Also, I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching through this review and recap up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.